want to give a shout out to this person, Stacey Ashton, who's the Executive Director of the Crisis Centre of BC and who was on the news last week dropping public mental health gems on the TV. Here's what happened. In Vancouver last week, emergency crews shut down part of the Alex Fraser Bridge for several hours in order to successfully bring to safety a person who was struggling with their mental health and on that day had thoughts of giving up. The news reported on this, but not because of the mental health crisis and not because of the successful emergency response. It made the news because of the non-empathic and highly disruptive behaviors of some of the drivers who were inconvenienced by the closure of the bridge. This came in the form of honking and yelling and erratic driving as people passed the emergency scene. In response to that disruptive response, Global News interviewed Stacey Ashton, who knocked it out of the park. First of all, because this is such a sensitive topic, it needs to be approached with care, clarity, and confidence. Talking about serious mental health topics can be a little bit like sex education in this way. If a sex ed teacher seems anxious or uncomfortable talking about sex, then the implicit message they may be sending is that sex is scary or shameful, and that just might make it more difficult for people to talk about sex moving forward. Suicide can be a scary mental health topic, often the scariest. However, good public education on the topic is very important and can save lives, which is why it is so impressive to see someone like Stacey calmly, clearly, confidently tuck so many public mental health teachings into those little soundbite windows that they give you on the TV. It's potent professionalism. Here is what I heard her say. She said what might have been going on for that person that day.
When somebody is in mental health crisis, especially when somebody is thinking about suicide, there is a part of them that wants to live, and that's the part of them that's not jumping, the part of them that's reaching out to help, the part of them that's still talking to police. And that's the part that we're supporting when we're working through a mental health crisis.
This is what we call parts work, and it applies to all of us, even in non-crisis settings. Different parts of self sometimes want different things. Counselors, for example, will often try to recruit a part of a client that wants to change, like the part of them that reached out for help, so that they may face a harder part of self with as much internal and external support as possible. In crisis counseling, the harder part may take the forefront, making the hopeful or healthy part feel far away. As Stacey explained, this is part of the reason why the emergency team made the decision to close part of the bridge. They are going to use a bunch of approaches with one common objective: to speak to the part of the person that does not want to give up. That part is always in there, it's just not always readily accessible. But the louder it is, the more stressful it tends to be, making it harder to connect with that part of the person. And bridges, they are loud. Which brings me to my favorite thing that Stacey said.
When there's yelling or counter messages, that's supporting the part of the person who wants to give up. And the situation resolves faster if everyone is pulling for that person to be safe.
This is kind of like collective parts work. For people inconvenienced by situations like this, it is very helpful to realize that accessing the better parts of yourself in those moments helps protect you from acting on the angry parts of yourself, which actually helps protect the person who's actually in crisis. Because if you spend hours in a traffic jam because other people are attempting to save a life, and if by the time you pass by that emergency scene, you are still so heated that you cannot refrain from yelling or honking, then that is a health concern, both for you and for the public. We are human, and perfect emotional stability is not always on the menu. But there are processing skills that we can practice to help increase the chances that we will keep our cool when it matters most.
If you are super frustrated in a traffic jam and you've got a cell phone, you can call the crisis line and we can help you deal with those emotions.